All right. Well, thank you everyone for having us today. As Lindsay mentioned, my name is Jessica Pineros, and I'm the Senior Manager of Learning and Member Engagement at SPLC. And I'm joined by my colleague, Kris Spriano, again, the Vice President of Programs and Development. And today we'll be walking you through SPLC's Sustainable Procurement Guidance for Laboratory Supplies and Services. So our agenda for today begins with a brief introduction to SPLC and our sustainable procurement framework. We'll then provide an overview of our guidance specifically for lab supplies and services. And finally, we'll leave time for questions and discussion at the end. So you can share your experiences and get clarity on anything that we cover. So to start, the SPLC, or Sustainable Purchasing Leadership Council, is a membership-based nonprofit founded in 2013. We lead a global community of public and private purchasers, suppliers, advocates, and experts dedicated to driving positive impact through the power of procurement. And we like to say that we are powering procurement for good because our mission is to leverage the purchasing decisions and processes of organizations to drive positive social, environmental, and economic impacts. We emphasize using procurement as a strategic tool to promote sustainability, equity, and ethical practices while creating value for businesses and communities. The SPLC has grown to approximately 180 member organizations, representing an annual spend of around $800 billion across the corporate, public, higher ed, and nonprofit sectors. And this diverse membership enables both sector-specific collaboration and cross-sector innovation to standardize sustainable procurement, align priorities for purchasers, and simplify market signals for suppliers. SPLC membership provides access to a wide range of benefits designed to strengthen your sustainable procurement programs. This includes exclusive access to cutting-edge guidance documents, tools, and resources, opportunities to collaborate with others tackling similar challenges, one-on-one coaching with our expert staff, and more. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through all of these today, but if you are interested in SPLC membership benefits, I encourage you to register for one of our bi-monthly Intro to SPLC webinars or visiting the webpage that we've linked here for you all. So as noted in the previous slide, a community platform with purchasing guidance is available to our members, such as these resource pages for 12 categories of spend, including lab supplies and services. These are essentially one-stop shop pages, allowing purchasers to not experience overwhelm and to get the resources that they need really efficiently. And because SPLC membership is enterprise-wide, when your organization joins, anyone and everyone on your team or within your organization can access the online community resources like these guidance pages directly. So most SPLC guidance documents are developed through SPLC's action teams. Each action team brings together staff, cross-sector community members, and external experts to focus on emerging topics and product categories. In addition to lab supplies and services, we've convened teams for categories such as food services, furnishings, construction, transportation, and electronics. And this collaborative approach ensures that guidance is grounded in both research and practitioner experience. So before we get into the lab supplies guidance, we wanted to level set and explain what we at SPLC mean by sustainable procurement and maybe how it relates to all of your day-to-day roles and activities. So when we talk about sustainable procurement, we mean purchasing practices that deliver value for money while intentionally strengthening the organization, the economy, society, and the environment. Unlike conventional procurement, which often emphasizes cost and efficiency alone, sustainable procurement strikes a balance. It strikes a balance between fiscal responsibility and long-term resilience, yielding a positive impact. So it is important to remember, though, that it does, in fact, still include conventional procurement values because ultimately a purchase can't be sustainable if it doesn't meet the business need. So, sorry about that. So sustainable procurement creates benefits across 3 dimensions. Environmentally, it supports climate protection, pollution prevention, waste reduction, and resource efficiency. Socially, it ensures work health and safety, fair wages, and equitable opportunity, while prohibiting forced labor. Economically, it promotes supplier diversity, fair competition, and local job creation. In this way, procurement becomes a lever to strengthen as well as supply chain. And I apologize, I guess the automatic.
The timer on, Jess? Yes.
But I'll just keep
up every once in a while.
if it moves forward too fast. But most of a typical organization's sustainability impacts occur in its supply chain rather than in its direct operations. This means procurement teams play a pivotal role in addressing risks such as climate change, deforestation, modern slavery, and corruption. At the same time, they have the opportunity to contribute living wages, human health, biodiversity preservation, and economic development through intentional purchasing choices. And research consistently shows that supply chain emissions, often called Scope 3, are dramatically higher than emissions from direct operations. In fact, they can be up to 26 times greater. And this underscores the importance of procurement teams as drivers of climate action and sustainability. By influencing purchasers' decisions, procurement professionals can reduce emissions at a scale that operational changes alone can achieve. So looking across industries, we see that carbon emissions vary significantly, but all sectors have major contributions from their supply chains. Understanding where emissions are concentrated helps procurement professionals prioritize interventions and set meaningful goals in partnerships with suppliers. So the benefits of sustainable procurement are multifaceted for organizations. It reduces risks, strengthens resilience, and often results in cost savings through efficiency. So for society, it advances equity, fairness, and community well-being. For the environment, it reduces negative impacts and promotes stewardship of natural resources. Taken together, these outcomes demonstrate why sustainable procurement is not just the right thing to do, but also the smart thing to do. And every purchasing decision your organization makes has the potential to drive meaningful change, from protecting the bottom line to advancing environmental and social goals. This especially is true in the everyday procurement of goods and services, such as lab supplies and services, where opportunities for impact are often closer than they seem. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kris for more on our lab supplies and services guidance.
Thanks, Jess. Happy to share a bit more on what was truly one of my favorite projects here at SPLC over my 7 years, the development of our sustainable procurement guidance for lab supplies and services. As Jess mentioned, this was developed using our action team approach and truly in partnership with an incredibly talented group of lab and sustainable procurement practitioners in the organizations that you see here, including our very own Star Scott, who's here. Hi, Star. Star, if you don't know her, but I bet you do, is the Sustainable Science and Green Labs Program Manager for the University of Georgia. Next slide. So, I think Jess already did a really nice job of kind of setting the stage at a high level for the why. Why procurement? Why are we even focusing on this? I want to double click down a little bit into that and ask, very quickly, and I know I'm probably speaking to the choir, why the focus on laboratories? Next slide, Jess. I'm sure that this group is very aware of the deep impact and opportunity of addressing sustainability in laboratories. Again, double clicking down from what just started off with some of the high level prioritizations around Scope 3. In 2021, My Green Labs found that just the global biotech and pharma industry's carbon footprint is it's actually more significant than forestry and paper, as well as the semiconductor industries, and equal to almost half of the entire carbon footprint for the United Kingdom. That's insane, right? And My Green Labs also found, as a result of this research, that companies' research laboratories were really fundamental to solving the problem within that space. Next slide. And thanks for the slide, Star. And in fact, if we shift now to university lab settings, for example, STAR reported during the development of our guidance that a single fume hood in a laboratory can use as much energy in a year as 3.5 US households. And that's really just, one sustainability impact within the laboratory space, not to mention the water usage, waste generation, and labor violations associated with the production of even simple things like the consumable nitrile gloves. Next slide. So those sustainability impacts really served as the impetus for developing this guidance. And at a high level, the objectives of the guidance really serves to identify and educate on the environmental, social, and economic sustainability impacts and opportunities related to purchasing lab supplies and services, provide strategies that really address those impacts, and most importantly, provide very practical examples for how lab purchasers like yourselves and maybe your procurement teams have been able to actually execute on those strategies, whether that's through, publicly available website, tools, case studies, eco-labels that are out there to help you do this in your own organizations. It's all in this guidance. Very, very comprehensive, if you will. Next slide, Jess. So the guidance is organized really beneath two approaches or perspectives. We have the program level on the top left there, and that really provides strategies that can apply to all or any type of lab-related goods or good or service, and truly any purchasing performed in your organization. So high level. And I would say in some cases, maybe best practices more tuned into something that your procurement team might need to integrate and implement. This would include things like supplier sustainability performance monitoring, leveraging digital procurement platforms like Jaeger, if you're familiar with some of those tools, and even promoting emerging technologies and solutions. Next slide, Jess. And then we have the product level perspective of the guidance that really goes into how to make more sustainable choices for specific products. And namely, as you see here, lab equipment products, consumables, and chemicals and reagents. And these are areas that our team prioritized based off of known overall sustainability impacts. So, for example, the strategies described for laboratory equipment would include things like using equipment that's more energy and water efficient, reducing or eliminating toxins in the production of your lab equipment's electronics components, and a number of other things. Next slide. Thanks, Jess. So for each strategy, whether it's a program strategy or a product strategy, the guidance is going to provide background on what that strategy is all about. It's going to provide resources and tools for how to actually execute and implement it inside of your organization. And again, a broad and practitioner-based list of case studies and additional appendix tools links so that you can better envision how that might be implemented, how that strategy and those best practices might be implemented in your own organization. Next slide, Jess. All right. So in most cases, I think, you'd probably want to take a look at both the program and product level sections of the guidance and, find good nuggets, if you will, to really take action towards, whatever sustainability effort you seek to implement. So let's take a use case, and let's say that your Star, I had to, at UGA, and you're keenly interested in addressing the bonded labor issues that have repeatedly come up over the years related to the production of nitrile gloves. So in using the guidance, the program level strategies could then be used to really educate not just yourself, but your procurement teams and other stakeholders on that issue, the labor issue, and on the voluntary international labor rights standards like the SA 8000 that really governs controlling this issue, tamping down this issue. And that standard could actually then be built into your organization's supplier code of conduct, obviously in partnership with your procurement team. And from a product level, consumable standpoint within the guidance, you could also learn about and execute on designing out the need for using so many gloves to begin with. Just get rid of them, right? When you can, obviously. Cutting down on the waste and associated costs. And you would also be equipped from this section with more information on the US Border and Customs Department website so that you could check on whether or not your current supplier actually has a related labor issue violation. And then again, working with your procurement team and really making a determination. If they did have a labor violation, what are you going to do about it? Put that supplier on a corrective action, or maybe just seek another supplier altogether. Next slide, Jess. So let's take one more use case example. And this one's a hypothetical. This one really leverages the product level guidance for lab equipment. So in this case, let's say that a lab intern is tasked with finding a more sustainable ultra low temperature freezer. Maybe a lab intern wouldn't do that. Maybe it's one of you leading your lab managing your lab. But for the sake of an example, let's say it's an intern. So your intern would first use our lab guidance to really come up to speed on the sustainability impacts of purchasing ultra low temperature freezers. And then they can use it to identify website, the US EPA's Energy Star listings website, at least while it's still available, and then compare warranties to find a more responsible choice that addresses those impacts that they've learned about. You can even find maintenance guidance from Stanford University on this particular product focus. And ultimately, all of which is really going to reduce the total energy usage and costs of the freezer that you end up buying, and maybe all freezers within your labs, reduce waste because you're looking at warranties and really making sure you're purchasing a freezer that's going to last a long time with the proper maintenance. And if you really want to get into it, potentially promote the organization's transition to climate-friendly refrigerants. Many of you, I didn't know this till I worked on this, might not know that the refrigerants used in refrigerators and freezers could have potentially much quicker impacts on climate change than carbon dioxide. So huge opportunity. The guidance will really touch on that and point you in the right direction to act on it. Next slide, Jess. So that wraps up our overview of SPLC and the Sustainable Lab Supplies guidance. Here are two links. If you are an SPLC member, as Jess said, you can access this. Your entire organization can access the guidance itself. It's a PDF report, and then all the other associated resources and tools that are on our Sustainable Procurement Resources page here, amongst other things. We have a lot of other benefits, but specific to labs. And then if you're not an SPLC member, that's okay too. We do have this link that allows downloading it for a small fee. And I think, let's see, Ryan or Lindsay are going to talk a little bit about some additional access options once we finish up this last slide. Next slide, Jess. And again, just mentioned our intro to SPLC membership sessions. Those run twice a month. If you think your organization might be interested in really capturing all of our member benefits, just goes into a lot more detail on what's included in membership and can help you get signed up. And I think that's the end of our presentation.